Coeleen Kiebert is a sculptor from Santa Cruz, California, who works in both ceramic and bronze. She has very little pretense about what her sculpture should look like once it's finished, staying open to what images will unfold in the process. Decades ago, she noticed that the most subtle messages often arose in her art, suggesting a deeper significance under the surface. While a single mom, she went back to graduate school to make a study of creativity and personality. For the 30 years since, she has taught the psychology of the creative process. Through collage, doodles, and clay work, Coeleen helps students develop their own voice and imagery, which can lead to personal revelation and understanding. With this in mind, making art is self-empowering.
Well, I've gotten most of my valuable information from studying Carl Jung, and I tend to look at things that way. That way meaning that there's a whole life that the unconscious is trying to work through, and the unconscious needs a stage to work that life through. The image itself will emerge from the unconscious. I don't know what the image is going to look like or feel like until I've completed the piece.
So I find it interesting with your students, you don't actually teach technique, you teach process.
It's more important to figure out what it is that you want to say when you're going to work with clay. That's not easy to come by, but if you figure out what it is that you want to say and how you want to work with the clay, then is the time to figure out the techniques in order to be able to build that kind of a piece. But the technique, in my opinion, should assist the image rather than teaching the technique in hopes that whatever image they're working with will be meaningful. It's hard for people who have been studying pottery to let go of worrying about the technique, so that those who have been studying pottery and do the collage and then begin to build the maquette will right away begin to worry about hollowing this out, or how's that going to attach, or how am I going to support this? And when I say, well, just make it solid and we'll deal with that later, you know, it's hard for them to actually get to that free place. We begin with collages, and that's a very quick way to get the imagery up from your unconscious. And I like to work with imagery from people's unconscious that they're not too clear about, but they have a personal investment in it. Even if they're confused about whatever the animal or the icon, whatever the figure is that's presenting itself, that's been in the collage, I'll say make that in clay. There can be one image that's trying to get out of the corner of a collage and another image that's very willing to help it or in the way. And both those images will be done in clay to see what they are about. Pick up a fresh piece of clay and search the collage for this image. And with your eyes closed, help that image to come out. It's always interesting to go back and look at it after you've had your eyes closed. In our own development as children, I think we move too quickly into drawing objects, that there's something that happens that is where the doodle comes from.
The adult asks, oh, hey, what's that supposed to be?
Yes, and the child very quickly turns whatever it is that they've been doing into a tree or a person or house. Or the doodle is our essential mark that we make when we're not thinking about it. And everybody has their own. They hold it preciously, too. So another technique that I use for teaching is to have people do their doodle. And when I say we're going to do a 45-minute doodle, that usually feels to people like impossible. How could they doodle for 45 minutes? Then we take that into clay. What does your doodle look like when it becomes three-dimensional? It's another body of work that's different from the object that has come out of the collages. I'm going to ask you to pick a straight color. And before you ask me, what is a straight color? I just want you to know that I never had a 6-year-old ask the question. Just pick a color and that is a straight color and draw a straight line. And now pick a color that has got the giggles and draw a line that's got the giggles.
I told my son-in-law we were doing this. He wanted to know if we had nap
time. Well, that's a good one. Draw the color of a nap time. What's the shape of a nap? That's great. I was always looking for something that's relevant. Their essential mark is always recognized. So if I were to bring a Picasso in here that you never saw before, and bring a George O'Keeffe in here that you never saw before, why is it that you would know which is which? But we all know that you would know which is which. Mm-hmm. And it's because that's the essential mark that they remain true to, which many, many artists give up in the name of a movement of the day, or a school. I prefer to work with these two bodies of work because I think that it's more like a spiritual practice in the sense of my giving up a lot of where is this going, what's happening, and that freedom hopefully gets translated into the pieces. So I think that they influence each other. Sometimes I am moved to work from what's going on in my life right now. And so in the garden there are justice pieces which speak of a trauma in our family over the loss of my son David and how difficult it was for us to solve the mystery of his death. So the justice pieces in the garden represent that period of time and the growth that went on in me in the search for justice in regard to his death, the mystery of his death. You have to respond to what's going on at the time when it's so all-consuming. So I guess I'm at a place now where I'm ready to go back and pick up again where I left off way back then.
Coeleen's sculptures evolve greatly. People who have had a few years between visits are always pleasantly astonished at the changes that they see in the work. She's been greatly influenced spiritually and artistically by the Orient. For instance, after many trips to China and Japan, she has produced a series of abstract spirit rocks, inspired by the nature-hewn originals she has encountered in traditional gardens.
There's so much for us to learn from the Chinese mind. The Chinese landscape painter or brush painter never goes out into the landscape and paints what they're looking at. They paint the experience of where they have been. You never see a Chinese painting of a particular mountain or of a particular place. They might refer to the Coeleen Mountains, but it's really a memory of it. The Orientals can move into the abstract so easily this way.
Coeleen's pursuit of the insights which the unconscious might offer up has led to a series of work portraying divers and navigators. They're prepared for the journey within, or in the case of the more recent Bartow Navigator series, equipped to document the beyond. The Bartow Navigators, could you explain what the Bartow is?
The Bartow is the 59-day period after one dies, during which we travel through all of the fears of our lifetime, and we've designed these fears ourselves. As we understand that that's all that they are, we come out of the Bartow and we take a rebirth. And each rebirth is more and more conscious. As we become fully enlightened, we're liberated from taking a rebirth again. And it will not be necessary to come back.
That's Buddhist, right?
That's Buddhist and Hindu also.
Coeleen has had a great time with equipping these navigators. They have pressure gauges, compasses, cameras, headphones, lots of equipment to track the Bartow as skillfully as possible. For these navigators, she created space stations to land and rest, take down notes, prepare for the next round. And then, looking out from all their gear, they see an angel, a Bartow angel. She hopes that perhaps there really are guides out there to help us.
This is a Bartow ion charger. This is for the camera or switch plate.
So at some point I'm going to have to come clean and admit why I was able to get an interview with this remarkable woman.
Yeah.
Because she's my mother. So I thank you very much, Mom.
Good work. Good work. Yeah. Well, you're an example of my creative process, and definitely having to live in the abstract.